Here we are again. Welcome to California Times. It's the end of June, June 28th, and I got you back. We're going to call this little show here California Water, and maybe with a little bit of a plus if we take it a little further.
Okay.
But you talked with me with the California Catalyst show that we did, and there we were talking about how water and housing and that whole connection was going on. And then I also had a interview with Ben Horenstein, the general manager of Marin Water District, a little more than a month ago. And I wanted to just touch base with you regarding a couple of things that the general manager said, Ben. One was to inform us that the water from Sonoma was going to be coming to an end, I guess, basically for this year in July, which may not be any big deal. And well, what can you tell us about the water supply from Sonoma? Have you learned anything more about that lately?
No, the Sonoma water is between 35 and 30% for Marin Municipal. And since last I heard, they're trying to get a semi-mandatory cut by the customers of between 20 and 30%. And that's not happening right now. And there's a number of reasons that could be. A lot of customers say, well, I'm not going to do anything until they absolutely put rationing on. And so they're going to water more than they would if we were into a rationing situation.
Yeah. All right. So let's going into that a little bit. The numbers you said 30 to 35% of you're talking about Marin MMWD, Municipal Water, is
right
coming out of the Russian River. But I think the number is closer to, isn't it more like a 20 or 25%?
No, what happens is it tends to bounce around a little bit. It was a straight 25 for the longest time, and then looking in on it, it varied between 25 and 32, and even more. So I don't know if that is Marin Municipal wanting to bulk up a little bit. I don't know.
Is that a recent observation? Is this something that's been going on in just the last year?
I'd say about a month ago. I noticed that. But
yeah,
it's my thought that you're really not going to get things over to the people until you say the R word, the rationing word, and then it's going to get serious.
Yeah,
they know that there's quite a bit less this year, and we had quite a bit less rain. But until you use the R word, you're not going to get a real serious effort by the consumers.
Yeah, everything has been basically on voluntary. They were hoping for a 40% cutback. That's what their goal was, and I did see the headlines that it was coming out to be 20% is what is basically maybe a little less than even 20% so far. So they're obviously preparing for the next step. I'm pretty sure of that. What's the what do you know about the Russian River supply right now? I think I was looking at an article today. Things look very grim up there.
Well, they've cut. Normally, you'll have the river open for outdoor aquatics and all that throughout the entire summer. Well, it's closed past Forestville, and that's maybe about a 15-mile swath where you're just not going to be able to do anything on the river, and that's because I believe Lake Mendocino and Sonoma are in the 29% area and 37% respectively.
Wow. Yeah, so we're kind of you would think, or we are attempting to batten down the hatches and embrace ourselves. What did you see about recently about the pipeline? I thought I saw that it was that they were going ahead. They were pressing forward to do whatever the next step is to get a pipeline across the Richmond Bridge. Did you hear that too?
Well, what I've heard is that they're pursuing it, and they're pursuing where they're going to get the water from.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be a straight up swap between the East Bay Mud people, or if it's going to be somehow Central Valley water shipped over to East Bay Mud, and then East Bay Mud sending water over to Marin via the pipeline. So that's what they're trying to investigate. And then the latest that I've heard of on the pipeline is that they were talking somewhere around 49 million. And 49 million is 12 times higher than the pipeline built in 77. Yeah. That one was about 4.5 million.
Yeah, it doesn't sound surprising to me. Yeah, no doubt. And it is fascinating, or to me, interesting that there's sort of a, I guess if you were to look down on the map of California, you'd be looking down on, maybe you can even give me an idea, maybe how many water districts make up the state of California? What does this jungle look like? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's not that bad. What do you know?
Water districts. I haven't a clue as to total number of water districts, but the magic number for California has been that all water rights are on the table prior to 1914. So if you have water rights that precede that, those are set in stone for you. And any of them that are after, then it's on the table. And I assume that the State Water Resources Board is going to have the final say as to what those water rights are going to be.
Now, all right. So here's another part of the mystery for an ordinary California citizen, and that might be like almost all of us, but the State California Water Resources Board, they are the dominant controlling force out of our state government. Is that correct? As far as you would just
on the state side, but I believe they either work in conjunction with the federal and I don't know which area of the federal government they work with, because you've got, for instance, you have water that Los Angeles draws from the Colorado River, and they and 7 other states draw from the Colorado River, and if you have a crossover from one state to the other, then I believe the federal government gets involved. But what portion of that, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that'd be a good thing to research for me or for anybody. If we can, I think we're my goal is to make this a little bit of a weekly series or a month of California water. So it'll be good to learn a little more definitively. I know the feds control a lot of the water to the Central Valley, right?
Right.
As far as you know.
They can they so far from what I'm hearing, the farmers are going to be way down in their water draws. There are some farmers that are only going to get 5% of what they would normally get.
Yeah.
And now you just have to balance if you're going to send Central Valley water down to Los Angeles to make up for Colorado River water, and then you have to also look at the salmon industry if you're going to release so that you can keep the salmon spawning grounds whole, and you don't cook the salmon eggs and the future salmon in the during the summer heat.
Yeah, I was just glancing down for my notes, and luckily I found them, which is a rare treat. USBR. I wonder if that is U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, maybe, or something like that. Department of Water Resources. But they say the targeted cuts, a freeze of the 5% allocation, meaning no water will be delivered until the agency knows what it can deliver. A freeze of the 5% allocation. You said 5%, right? That's what you were,
right?
Number that
right.
you had heard too. So they're not promising any more than that, I guess.
Right.
Until they know what they can deliver, which is, I guess, the mystery that we're all at the hands of Mother Nature will be the controlling factor there.
Well, part of the problem is going to be that there's maybe 1%, if that, of runoff. There's almost absolutely zero runoff because the ground was so dry from the previous 2 years,
right?
And the ground has soaked that up.
Yeah.
And so you have maybe at the higher elevations, you have small patches of snow, but you're not getting any runoff.
Yeah, no, the big story today, I think it's on the front page of the IJ, and I was looking at it in the Mercury News too, that said that the projected runoff basically dissolved in front of their eyes.
Right.
It evaporated away. The ground was so dry, and I guess it was a warm April and May, that they didn't get the runoff. It's as we're dealing with this with the state, and one of the big issues, I mean, it's like a critical moment, it seems like, in terms of a learning, an opportunity for us, for our civilization, for our state of California, to start coming to grips more with the possibility that we have a carrying capacity, is the term that we've once upon a time used to hear. What is the carrying capacity of a region, of a people, and
that's, I mean, in the last bad drought in 77, we had 25 million people. Now we've got 40 plus. And the State Water Resources Board is saying we're going to have 50 by 2050. So it's, again, you have to think to yourself, where's the water going to come from? Do we have an outside source that we can tap? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that the whole issue of population and the belief system that we are sort of feel obligated to uphold. That is, that we are continually destined or obligated to expand our population base, whether it be on the planet as a whole, or California, or the town of Novato, or San Anselmo, or San Francisco? Or do we have to set a new vision, or can we, as a human being, find this path through? I think it would be called sustainability, if we had a steady state on the planet of population. It's really, I think, one of the most major issues that there can be in terms of dealing with, future generations' well-being.
Well, even if we had all the money to go out and buy all of the that we would need, you get back to the problem of the power needed to get those desal plants up and running. Because right today, there was an item in the newspaper. There's going to be brownouts throughout the state. What happens when you have a brownout, when you have a desal plant going, you have to ratchet down the power that you're using into that plant. They have to conserve just like we do. And in the Carlsbad desal plant 3 years ago, when we had brownouts, they were only able to deliver 20 to 25 million gallons a day rather than the 50 million a day. And then that almost ended up going to court because the folks down in San Diego were saying, hey, you guaranteed this to us and you came up short. And so we feel that you owe us X number of dollars. And so the Poseidon people that run that built and run the Carlsbad plant, they ended up having to settle out of court for about $3 million.
It's we want to enforce our technological will on things that are beyond our control, and then want to blame each other or sue somebody for they're not able to keep up with it. It just feels to me that the challenge of the 21st century, which seemed like it was the challenge of the 20th century also, was still trying to, and I think optimistically we're still taking baby steps in the right direction to become a culture, a civilization that lives within what nature needs for us to carry on. It's
well, the whole thing is that the state water resources board says we're going to have less ag land, and that's going to transform into urban land. So you have this switch of a water user that uses a lot more than the urban setting. But if you have an urban setting that is dense housing, sooner or later it's going to catch up to what the ag usage has been. And then you have, they're talking about water reuse. Well, water reuse is eventually going to be toilet to the tap. And there's two countries in the world that use over 80% of their water. They reuse it. It's Israel and Saudi Arabia. And the Saudis have been doing it since the 50s with water reuse. The Israelis have been doing it since the early 60s. And I think Israel uses about 87% reuse, which I think is the world record.
Yeah. Well, am an advocate of small is beautiful and of local control and a new vision, a new vision for where we're going in California. And I think that many of us recognize that there's something blind about just cracking the whip and saying gung ho and let's keep doing what we've been doing for the last 50 years more and more. That seems like it's taking us down the path it's going to create further disaster down the road. If it was to, the more it succeeds, the more it's creating a bigger disaster as far as I can see. So it's how do we, I think we're at the verge on the planet potentially of pulling some things together and I hope and I believe coming up with a new sense of progress and mission.
Well, we could always terraform Mars.
Well, that's what indeed, and that's what it's funny because it actually is really funny. But of course, Elon Musk and there's those who heartily believe, but certainly that's not the slightest potentially possible to alleviate any strain on the planet Earth. You're not going to get a colony going. This is a science fiction, complete fantasy there. And in the meantime, because of our work with catalysts in California, I mean, we've seen that there is sort of a battle in the grassroots battle in California to push back against this statutory mandating growth. There's been positive signs throughout up and down the state. Here in Marin County, 3 communities now are appealing their RENA numbers and are making statements to Sacramento. And I think that what they're all attempting to find is a place for a clearer vision of what progress is, and it's there's opportunity, I believe.
Well, I found it unfortunate that my community in Nevada they were unanimous in approving the RENA numbers.
Yeah.
And, back in the old days when you went to the Camel Bazaar, you didn't go to the Camel Bazaar and say, well, we're not going to haggle. We'll just roll with whatever you want. And you have to stand up there and say, how did you get those numbers? I didn't hear any of the folks say, how did you get those numbers? They just went with them. I find it interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's every town has its personality, has whatever its history, and Nevada's been a city that has embraced growth, and that's sort of been its path forward over the last 30 or 40 years. It's grown a lot, and I think the people in power there think that 2,000 homes is not too much. They probably had their eyes set on even more than that. I don't know.
I seriously don't get it, and because we are in even a more dire straits than Marin Municipal is. At least Nevada has advanced metering infrastructure, so that they know when leakage is occurring on the customer side, and they can get a hold of the customer and let them know that they've got a leak. Marin Municipal doesn't, but they have more storage on site. They're not 80 to 85% dependent on Lake Sonoma or Lake Mendocino.
It's actually, yeah, I think the depth of the to me, you almost could use the words almost dereliction of duty in not seeing the what kind of in harm's way they're putting the people of Novato if they were to get those 2,000 homes, if you could snap your fingers and get them, and then have another situation like 2021 down the road again,
Right.
what are they going to do? They think that these units may have no impact. It's crazy.
It is. And if I am in riparian water rights, the guy that's closest to the source has more rights. Now, if I'm the Sonoma and the Mendocino water agencies, I'm saying, you know what, Nevada? You feel, even though you're getting 85% of your water from us, that you can add another 2,000 homes, or whatever it's 2.5 times 2,000. So you're talking 12,000 individuals into a population of 55,000. So we're talking 25% increase by 2031. And if I'm the water agency that's supplying the most to Novato, I'm going to say, you better guarantee your folks that you either have another source or you're going to have a problem, because we may not be able to provide you with 80 to 85%, or even down to 70 or 65%.
Yeah. No, I was just, once again, I was looking for the article that I pretty sure I sent you, and they were talking about this very thing in Lake Sonoma and Lake, was it Pillsbury? Is it? The situation is just so incredibly dire up there.
Right.
They're telling local agriculture, which sustains and supports Sonoma County's economy, all the wineries, I mean,
Right.
they're facing potential disaster. And when you think about what Novato did, it just kind of goes back again to like,
right.
how does Sonoma, how do they deal with this town, and how deeply are they obligated to Novato? I mean, can they throw up their hands next year and just say, forget it? We can't.
Yes, they can.
They can.
They can. Yeah. So all the riparian water rights, they can just say, well, sorry, and you're at the tail end of the supply line, so we're very sorry, but you're going to have to go elsewhere. That's why I looked this morning at the newspaper, and I see the board member from Marin Municipal talking about doing this and that on